budgetary issue we're dealing with right now about who's paying for the coffee. Little do you know, you actually you might have started an hour conversation. All right, we're starting. It is again 11:17. Again, no improvement from last week. I will tell you when we walked in here. We are spot on. Maybe we need to change the timing from 11:17 to 1:17. But I think everybody doesn't show up until 11 and walks in, and we were actually behind people. So it's time to get coffee, and everybody brings some dessert, homemade something with chocolate chips in it. Who's going to admit to that?
It was bought. That's what I was.
Oh, it was bought?
Yeah, some place where you buy one and you get one free.
Okay. So we got the freebie because that's a budgetary issue we're worried about. Because we're trying to allocate who drank some more coffee, mySCGOP or Greenville GOP. If you miss the meeting on Monday.
We got clarity.
Terry Richards, I can say it without getting hit, is my favorite Terry. She's here. Good morning, Patriots. Okay, well, we do have one new guest here today, and actually Jeff Brown might qualify as one too. It's been a while since you popped in, so maybe you can introduce yourself too. But we will start with our new guest, Kelly Lease, or Lease is joining us. If you'd like to grab the mic and tell us who you are, how you heard about us, what your cause is, and how we can help.
Well, first of all, I am a Republican. First name is Kelly Lease. I heard from Lucia. She's our lieutenant in the Warrior Coffee Group.
Amen.
Her and I are both a part of a number of nonprofits here, primarily with veterans. This morning we spoke on the 4 rooms that we live in: spiritual, social, emotional, and physical. And the beauty about coming here today, I'm in the spiritual. It's going to be emotional, socially, and I damn sure hope it ain't going to be physical.
Keep it clean. Keep it clean.
That's why I'm a new guest.
You get one pass, and this is your pass. Mr. Brown, welcome.
Thank you. It has been a minute. Jeff Brown. I'm a lifelong Republican. I do have the paperwork to prove it, but it's. I don't think I've ever lived in a state that actually had registration by party. I'm a Reagan Republican. In other words, I turned 18 in '79 and registered and voted for Reagan in '80. So proud of that heritage. But yeah, it's been a minute, and you might say I'm a fair weather participant of coffee politics, but it's not fair weather today. So I think I qualify that I overcome that that moniker. But anyway, I'm glad to be here, and I am EC of the Devonshire precinct, and struggling to get my fellow precinct members activated. It's been a challenge, to say the least.
That's a nice setup for what we're doing tomorrow. We're doing a training class tomorrow at 10 here back at headquarters, and we'll stream it and whatnot. But it's about building your precinct. And what we're going to do in Greenville, set some goals on membership and on getting people to commit to vote in the June primaries, because that's a big issue. The big talk is, it's 15%, 14% turnout. We want to increase that. If it's 15% turnout, imagine, if we got 2 or 3 more people out of 100 to come out, 5 out of 100, you move it to 20%. And if those 5 out of 100 people in your precinct, just because, we make them aware of it, make them aware of the candidates, those types of things. And if they're good conservatives, the conservatives can end up winning every race, the conservative Republican, because quite frankly, as we all know, the big issue here in South Carolina is, Democrats come and will vote in our primaries, and they're voting for the most liberal or least conservative Republican, and that's what we end up having, and then we have no other options or choices at the November election. So the real battle is the June primaries. The real battle before that, there's 3 steps to it. I like to talk about getting involved in precinct reorg. Even if you just come to the precinct meeting and to your county convention and vote for the MAGA America First slate. If that's all you do every 2 years, other than the voting in the June primary and voting in the November elections, then that's a patriot to me. So, Austin saying good morning, but I mean, we love people to participate a lot more. We want, we have a ton of projects and a ton of positions and things to get involved and do in, a ton of committees, and we pick up people that have a cause, and we want to support them in that cause as long as it's on the conservative side and help spread the word and do things like that. But to be a patriot, just come to precinct reorg every other year. That's a reorg meeting. That's for your local precinct, and then for your county convention, come to vote in the June primaries, and then vote in the November elections. So that's pretty. I think it's pretty simple, and I look forward to the day when that's all I have to do. But I will tell you, I mean, before I got involved in this, I knew nothing about precinct reorg. I was 40 years old, 50, or maybe I was 50. Yeah, I must have been 50. I was 58 now, so I was turning 50. And I'd never heard of precinct reorg. I've been a lifelong, like you, Republican, always voted Republican, went to the primaries, and even did that. I felt that was my duty to go and vote, as much and as often as I could. Obviously different races, not as often in one race. But I'm like, I didn't know anything else. I didn't know who was the better candidate to vote for. I just figured, well, the guy or girl that has the most signs out must be the best candidate. And quite frankly, that's probably the worst candidate. So, or the person that sent you the most mailers or something, because how do they have the financial wherewithal to be able to put out those signs and send all those mailers? Because they're probably working with the lobbyist and the money special interest that is funding them to help, I can say, line their pockets, but certainly line the pockets of the people donating their campaigns. And what we're trying to do is, I don't know, I like, democratize the data, which is what Mike Burkholz talks about in regards to the comptroller race. But, we want to make it easier for people to run for office. We want average, normal people to run for office. I talked to, somebody who's an elected official earlier this week. When they ran for office the first time, they spent $1,500. They're like, I don't really want to have to spend $20,000 or $30,000 or even go out and raise money to do that. And this person that spent $1,500 and got elected, didn't even do what Gary Collins did, knocked on 30,000 doors or whatever Gary did when he got elected. That's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. But this person got elected is probably one of the people that has the best voting records that I know of on the conservative side of it, because this person's not beholden to anybody. Not beholden to us, not beholden to anybody else out there. I don't want people beholden to us necessarily. I don't want people beholden to the money special interest. So, we've got to figure out a way to get more participation. You guys in your precincts, us in our precincts, all of us, and that's what tomorrow will be about. And we got to put some numbers and some metrics to it, and give you the tools and skills for it, and get out there and do that. There's little cost, I mean, I know to run for office, even this person I talked to, they spent $1,500. There's a minimal amount of cost that you got to do, but you don't have to spend the $30, $40, $50, $100,000. I know a guy that was elected to a House seat, he just threw $100,000 at it and told the establishment campaign consultant to just go out there and do whatever they needed to do. That person is pretty much guaranteed to win. I mean, it's, and now this person fortunately is not a lawyer or legislator, but imagine if you were a lawyer. I mean, is that the best? What's the payoff for spending $100,000 of your money to get elected to be a lawyer legislator down there at the State House and be able to pick the judges you then go appear in front of? Sir? Oh yeah, easy. Fivefold easy. I've had actually another elected official made the comment that they knew a lawyer that got elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives, and immediately their hourly billable rate doubled. Why? Because they could. You're now picking the judges. And if you're, and I hate to say it, I recommend it to people. If you get in trouble, go find a lawyer legislator to be your attorney. I hate saying that, but guess what? That's probably the best set of advice for this state, and obviously in Virginia, the two states that let their legislature pick the judges. So
a good lawyer knows the law. A great lawyer knows the judge.
That is. Say that one more time in the mic really
A
clearly.
good lawyer knows the law. A great lawyer knows the judge.
Yes. Good lawyer knows the law. Great lawyer knows the judge. And it's true. And I will tell you from my experience, the joke was always in law school, all the kids that made straight A's in law school, they were going to be the judges, right? All the people that made B, I don't know what the B people are, but the C people, they were probably out partying and they knew everybody. So they make the most money, because they're out there, representing people and representing all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'll tell you, there's probably some Democrat lawyer legislators, judges, or I'm sorry, not judges, but lawyers that I'd probably want to hire, because I mean, they're out there and they are not bashful about even using the fact that they take advantage of the fact that they're lawyer legislators picking the judges. So, and obviously we're fighting that. Our big issue is judicial reform. Kind of, I know that's been out there for a while, but I don't think anybody would deny that we probably would not have the judicial reform efforts going on right now, and or be as close as we are to some victory on judicial reform, but for the fact that we in 2022, January 6, 2022, had David Pascoe come speak to the Greenville County Republican Party. That is what really, and even Pascoe says that, and Joe White, we were at a meeting down at the State House on Wednesday. Joe White, the legislator out of Newberry, House Rep, he even talked about it. I mean, the fact that he called me, and this is before he was in elected office, said, why are you having, the devil come preach to, the choir, with having a Democrat come speak to the Republican Party? And I explained it to him, and he chewed me out about it, and that was okay. But then he admitted, afterwards he calls me and apologizes, and his number one issue and why he ran for office was to push judicial reform. And that's what David Pascoe was talking about. And I'm pleased to see that he is being very successful in his campaign. He was a Democrat at the time. He was a pro-life Democrat, believed in the Second Amendment, and number three, he's always been for the death penalty, which Greg Peck, who's sitting here, who heard him speak back in January of 22, he walked up to David Pascoe afterwards and said, you're not a Democrat, right? And apparently,
I said that to him.
Did you say that?
I said that to him, and because he didn't know me, he just smiled back. Because he might have suspected that I was trying to get ammunition against. He might have suspected that I was trying to get ammunition to use against his next election.
Yeah,
but I wasn't.
No, I mean, it's come a long way, and he was a classmate of mine at the Citadel. I guess we both were in law school at the same time. He was down in, I don't know, 4th Battalion, and I was in 1st Battalion, so I didn't go down there, so we didn't really know each other back in school. But I mean, he is the one person that is literally campaigning against every elected official that's out there, because they are scared to death of him. Because I will tell you, and this goes into a new piece of legislation that was filed this week, actually by Representative White, is that the state does not have a statute of limitations for most crimes. Very few crimes do we have a statute of limitations. That is actually, it was shocking to me, and I even went to law school here, but I mean, I'm not that kind of lawyer, but it's actually going to turn out to be a very good thing, in the sense that David Pascoe can go back and pretty far back and look at things and prosecute them. It's a good thing.
You're saying that if they something happened 10 years ago, you can go back and check it out. It's no
Right.
2 years.
Yes.
timeframe,
Yes.
you gotta-
Yes.
Like 25 years.
Yeah.
I like that.
So she's,
Especially with DNA right now. And then
Well,
cases are still laying out.
and that for kind of other things that are out there. But DNA, I mean, murder was the one thing that is kind of out there that there was no statute of limitations. And, so DNA really gave the scientific improvements gave people the opportunity to go back and solve cold cases, as they would call it. But think about how many cold cases there are on just more regular stuff that, oh, well, don't worry about statute of limitations is passed, because it was either 4 years or 5 years or 10 years or whatever it may be. Now, the one qualification on statute of limitations is we have a statute of limitations 4 years on illegal lobbying. Imagine that. Why are we in a state with virtually no statute of limitations but for something that would implicate legislators, all legislators and their friends, the lobbyists. So that's what was announced on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not sure what day it was, but maybe it was Thursday. But David Pasco and Joe White announced it, and they did a press conference announcing a new bill that they just filed this week, to eliminate that statute of limitations on illegal lobbying. Yes. Now, if the technicality of it, I don't know if that means everything going forward doesn't have a limitation, or even we can, that opens up the door for past stuff. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't, probably not. I looked at it, and a principle it probably shouldn't, but we'll see. But I'm going to tell you, watch that bill not move a single inch. And I have literally told everybody, I've said as it becomes clear that David Pasco will be elected or be the Republican nominee for Attorney General, and then obviously as a Republican, he would almost naturally, almost by coronation, be the Attorney General for the state of South Carolina, being sworn in January 27. Watch the legislature try to slap through something that puts a statute of limitations on everything. I mean, So I mean, it's going to be very interesting because Pasco he wants to prosecute and go after all kinds of stuff, but his number one thing is corruption. The number one thing he is going to and talking to or getting questions about from Republican, GOPs and everything else is about the corruption in politics. I am involved in this. Olga and I are involved in this because of the corruption in politics and in school choice. We're into judicial reform because I literally went to law school in this state, and I come back. I've been a tax attorney, just so you know, in Atlanta, and did all that CPA down there. But when I came back, got involved in some stuff and started seeing what was commonly known in the legal community as going on. Number one, lawyer legislators calling judges and telling them how they want cases to turn out. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And this is not just what I thought. I have literally had, this was told to me the first time by the head partner at one of the biggest firms in the state, because we had hired them on some stuff that we were doing. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Why is the legal community not walking up and down Assembly and Gervais Street, circling the State House, asking for some sort of reform? Because they all know it is going on, and nobody wants to lose in this case, their lake house out in Lake Murray, because they're upsetting judges or upsetting politicians or upsetting the balance of what goes on out there. And we talked about earlier about somebody that is going to run for office here in Greenville and doesn't want to upset, Joe Cornell, the county administrator. Sorry, I wasn't delaying saying his name. I just had to think about it for a minute. I still got a little chemo brain. Sorry. But I mean, Joe Cornell, nobody wants to upset Joe Cornell. How does it benefit your personal business or your whatever, even as an elected official on county council? How does it benefit you to go after Joe Cornell, who then pulls the strings and knows where all the bodies are buried and everywhere? Grab the mic.
If he gets in, by the time he gets
pass her the mic.
Joe will only have about 7 months left.
We hope so.
But he's not even in office, but most of the other ones fear Joe as well. Mm-hmm. And they are in office. They've been elected.
Yes.
So,
and a lot of people that think about the Dan Cripps of the world, they enabled Joe to be able to do that, Joe Cornell to do that, and they were pleased with it because Joe Cornell was doing what they wanted him to do. Absolutely. And I can't remember, was it Joe Cornell that made the statement? I don't know who told me. We don't have to claim it, but that their job at county council or whatever, the county, Greenville County government, was to serve all residents of Greenville County, specifically excluding all citizens of Greenville County. Right? Yes. So it was. I assume he was making a point.
He was making a point because when I graduated from Citizens Academy, and they asked for commentary. I made a commentary about illegal citizens in the county and what can
illegal aliens.
So,
yes.
When I'm talking in front of people, I get messed up. So illegal migrants are a county.
Pass it. I think this is important to say.
When I graduated from Citizens Academy, they asked for commentary, and I figured I had an audience for some county councilmen and some employees there, and Joe Cornell was there. And I asked him, what can the county do about illegal migrants in the community? And so I made some suggestions. You know, why don't I put something on the website? What about telling what Donald Trump wants to do? How about a billboard? I made some suggestions of what they could do, and I made some observations of what I had been seeing. And so he came back. Joe Cornell came back, and he says, "We don't want to be political at this level. We want the politics to be at the state and national level. We want to serve all citizens,
No, all residents.
all residents." Okay, sorry, you gotta correct me. All residents. Well, I got pretty upset. I did write Vinton Blunt about that, and so I just wanted my commentary out there that being a citizen doesn't seem to matter to Joe Cornell.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, America is a very giving country. We probably give more than any other country on the planet. You know, we look at y'all are involved in causes to help folks. There's causes to help immigrants, help overseas. I got no problem for that. But I'm like, it is anything in excess is a problem. And open borders and allowing 20 million people to cross into America is a problem. And crime has gone up and all that. You can talk about it all day long. I think we're mainly in agreement here. But I'm like, you just can't do it. There's something. There was a video they did years and years ago that's always had influence on me, and I think it's under Numbers or Numbers.com or something like that. But they said, oh well, here's America, and it was like just balls, And the planet itself, there's 9 billion people on the planet or whatever it is. There's 330 million, 350 million, people in America. You start taking those extra balls, and it was white balls for Americans and then colored balls for outside the country. If you just start letting them in, ultimately you end up overwhelming the system, and it will crash America. And then who can we help if you can't? Yeah, and it's the same thing with like being on an airplane. They tell you, put the mask on yourself first. It's not that we're wanting to be stingy. I mean, I don't think, I'm willing to sacrifice and help other people, and obviously we do, and lots of folks here do. And the joke is always, I'm a tax attorney guy, and we would do people's taxes and all that. My Republican clients were always the most generous as compared to my Democratic clients. And it was I was a conservative. I just kind of noticed, my anecdotal evidence, was out there. And it's like, the liberals actually like to donate money to causes that get more government money. So, they're maybe a little smarter about investing in things that will then get, but conservatives, they don't want the government participating in a lot of this type of stuff, and I frankly believe, we ought to distribute all that government money for funding and stuff through local nonprofits and groups, obviously not Leering centers and things like that. That has obviously become a problem, but you have to regulate or watch them and make sure they're fulfilling their mission. But there's a lot of people with really good mission that are open and transparent about what they're doing that, struggle to get the funding to be able to do what they do, while there's some others that are not transparent and they're doing bad things with it that get all the funding on the planet. And it, not to go into Minnesota too deeply, but you just look at it. A lot of our elections are based on 5% of the population in the middle makes the determination one way or the other who becomes the elected official. And if you look at the community up there that they were giving a lot of money to, the Somali community, that moves the needle on essentially every election in Minnesota. Local elections, the state elections, all of those types of stuff, 90,000, 100,000 people, changes the result of a governor's race. That's what was going on. That's why, I think, what's his name what's the governor up there that ran for Tim Walz? That guy, he's something else, isn't he? But I think that's why he was covering for them. And, if there wasn't something there, why in the heck did he step out of his governor's race? He was in the race to run for his third re-election, which, he would have put him up there for 12 years, 4 more years from now. And he stepped aside. And what do they do? What are they bringing in? Because, our friend Mike Lindell's up there, right? So he's running on the Republican side for governor in Minnesota. But the Amy Klobuchar, and y'all know, I mean, she's one of the most influential Democratic senators, U.S. senators. But they took her off the board to come back and run for governor because they need to make sure they could keep somebody super popular that would have the best chance of getting reelected to kind of keep the covered up. Which I hate to say it, I've said it many times publicly. I think that's the same reason Alan Wilson has stayed in office as Attorney General for 16 years, because he was part of with Pasco and all that stuff with the Quins 8 years ago. Alan Wilson was all in it and tried to cover it up and stop that stuff there. But I mean, it was always been known that he was, he was going to run for governor, but he stayed in the AGs, for an extra, I think, 8 years, really to make sure that stuff was covered up. What's the problem though? No statute of limitations. No statute of limitations. I mean, it's like, holy cow. And it will be very interesting. And I threw this hypothetical out there because Alan Wilson's pretty low on the polling side, or at least on the betting odds of becoming the next governor. What interesting thing it would be if Alan Wilson decides not to pull out of the governor's race and run for re-election as Attorney General. Everybody knows his name, so he can keep David Pasco out. Because
let's say,
all right, look.
This is just him. What happens if Alan Wilson gets elected governor, Pasco gets elected AG, and then uncovers something that Wilson did, and he's marched out of the governor's bench in handcuffs?
Come on.
Can you speak in the mic, please? No. We don't have to. I'll just listen. I mean, it's not personal against Alan Wilson. It's against the system. We have to have people that are willing to do the right thing. And my joke is, I hate to say it's a joke, but but this is the reality of what goes on. I mean, I'm dealing with a judge, whether you want to call him a rogue judge or whatever, that wants to put me in jail for 90 days. Steve Bannon made the comment, you're not prepared for this fight unless you're ready to go to jail for doing what's right. And it's quite interesting to see people who are fighting for judicial reform and talking about all the bad judges out there and all the problems and all yada, yada, yada. But they're happy that a judge is sitting there trying to put me in jail. So I'm like, where is the consistency in your principles? So I just find it's I'm covered with what's going on, but I just because certainly the thing that they're trying to do, and we've got it in the Court of Appeals now, and it's against all legal precedent that's been out there. But I'm like, well, you can't stop a trial judge, especially a trial judge that's retired. This trial judge, once you're retired, we talk about judges that are elected by the legislature. What about judges that are in retired status and nobody elects them? There is no 8-year term, and there is no nothing. They're just appointed by in this case, technically the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, and whether he knows or doesn't know, or did it on purpose or didn't do it on purpose, or just needed extra people doing court cases out there. So hey, there's a judge. But my judge that I'm dealing with is the exact same judge that Nancy Mace is dealing with, because they consolidated all the Mace cases, the civil and the criminal, under kind of one judge to keep up with the facts. And guess what judge they gave it to? The same judge that I had. So that told me immediately, they wanted to give it to a judge that they have influence over, that may go a certain way. And she has gone on a rampage against him. So I mean, it's kind of, that's the good piece of Nancy Mace. You want some change, you're going to get some change. But what I also find interesting, and it goes back to my story about judges, and we'll open the floor up, but judges being called by legislators and telling them which way. I literally had he's now a former House rep, but I literally had a House rep from that knows this particular judge. And when I first got involved with all this stuff, asked me if I wanted him to call this judge because he was a family friend of theirs, and tell him, talk to him about this case. I sat there and said, no, naively and stupidly. I said, no, that's not, you can't do that. That's against everything they teach us, and yada, yada, is what we're fighting, even if it would benefit us. But I mean, yeah, I must be 1 out of 100. I don't know, because, but I think I know there are many legislators that do not like what we're doing. And I can almost guarantee you many of them have called this judge and told him things, because he actually brings up and acts certain ways that I'm like, how does he even know or think of that? Because it's not in any of the court documents. It's not something the other side. So I'm like, either he's having ex parte communications with the counsel from the other side, which is improper, or he's being called by lawyer legislators, which is improper, or he's doing his own research. Because, think about a court, which is improper. There's like something funky about it. And I literally got an email from that judge this week, and I'm going to file some documents about it. But I had to file, an affidavit, sworn affidavit from my oncologist as to the current status of my health stuff and all that kind of jazz, because he didn't trust just a letter from the judge, because obviously I must be forging the letter from my doctor. So I said in there, I just want to remind, I hope the court will remind the opposing counsel when I set this in that they're not supposed to distribute it or give a copy to their clients. They can talk about it in general with their clients, but they're not supposed to, and their clients aren't supposed to talk about it in public. And the judge responds back that, I think the opposing counsel, I think they know what they can and cannot do. I'm like, okay. I so wanted, and I actually started to type the response email, hit reply, and just type it, and then, I saved it for later. But I'm like, you realize opposing counsel literally filed a false sworn affidavit in your courtroom that you've refused to go after them about. Chad Connolly filed a false sworn affidavit in another court case I had with him down in Newberry, that I then submitted a motion to have sanctions, and it's a crime. Filing a false affidavit. It was mathematically provable, which was great. I'm a math guy. I'm like, there's no judgment call here. So since there was no judgment call in the falsity of the affidavit, the judge said, well, I didn't use that sworn affidavit in my ruling, so I'm not going to consider that. I'm like, really? So really? I mean, think about that. Somebody, a lawyer who's actually in this other case with me, and his client, Chet Collins, is in this case with me, filed a false sworn affidavit, mathematically provable, and not like by a small amount, like by a factor of 20, and it was all to influence how that case turned out, and it was in a premature motion to dismiss the case, because they didn't want the case going forward. And we ultimately won it, in the sense that Chad Connolly got fired because of what he was doing. And I'm sitting there going, but you don't really care that he filed, and the attorney filed a false sworn affidavit in your courtroom, because you didn't use it in the determination of your ruling. Let me assure you, their intent in filing the false sworn affidavit was to give you the evidence to do whatever you wanted to do, to prematurely dismiss it. But I mean, that's what we're battling. That's what I'm battling literally this week. And it's quite interesting. But my caveat of what all that means is, yeah, you can. And I talked to somebody in the media this morning, and they were a little frustrated about some things that are going on out there. And his whole point was, his point is you have to look at all of the facts and all the stuff. And his thing was, he tells people, or they put out in the media and all that stuff, certain things, but it's like, don't trust me either. And I'm like, you must be reading our emails, because that's what we literally teach people. The person, we don't trust the Democrats, and it's easy to know that they're lying and figure it out. But think about your favorite politician. Think about your favorite political commentator out there. Do you ever question anything he or she says? We really should. You really should question what I say, and well, they do that, but they irrationally question sometimes. But I don't take offense to that. A lot of people, they take a grand offense. I don't think you need to harass them all the time. And I think once they've proven themselves a lot, then, yeah, you give them a little grace. And I give Trump a lot of grace. I think he did good things in 4 years. He did good things in coming, his 4 years off and coming back and subjecting himself to this stuff. And he's done certainly good things since he's been in office. I give him a little grace because I know he's trying to move a big machine up there, and I don't have perfect information, and maybe I don't like exactly what he's doing, but until he starts really doing some bad things or having bad results or what appears to be bad judgment, then maybe we'll start speaking up about some. But bombing Iran I was okay with that. I mean, it's, he got in, got out, it ended the 12-day war, whatever they want to call it, and all that kind of stuff, and move forward.
So are you okay with it going forward now?
I think I think you have to negotiate from a position of strength and a position of willingness to do things. Do I think we need to go in and have a prolonged 20-year war? No. Do I think that we need to go in to have a year-long thing? No. Do I have necessarily a problem with, they fall apart and we go in there and take care of some stuff in and out? That's, but I've said the same thing, with the old days. I don't think we should have had troops walking around downtown Baghdad or wherever they're walking around, to have people taking pot shots at them all day. But, build a base out there in the middle of the desert and have it a nice, comfy place. And when things get bad, go in and provide support. But the local people have to fight for it. And if they're not willing to fight for it, why are we, spilling our blood and spending our treasure on it? What's your thought on that? Because you have an opinion. Grab the mic. Because you always have a very challenging opinion, and that's okay. I like that.
Very challenging opinion, and that is, I voted for Trump 3 times, and I especially voted for him because he was going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. And having come here after 3 decades of living in Germany, I know what happened to Europe after Bush's wars, how we flooded Europe. It was a plan. They flooded Europe with Arab men of fighting age, and they're still there. So we're going to do that now with Iranian men. And I didn't sign up for that. I just did not sign up for that. There needs to be, for instance, I have asthma. I have to get my medication from India because I can't afford it here. I thought Trump was going to take care of all these problems. There's so much money being spent on fighting neocon, warmongering wars. It's enough already. And I also have 5 grandsons in Europe.
Wow.
I don't want them to grow up and have to fight for what? There needs to be peace on earth, and I thought Trump was the peace candidate. Not that I would I have voted for Kamala? Never. However, I had such hope in Trump. I really did.
And I think we all felt that way. And I think he's trying to be the peace president. And so I hear your pain. I got the same pains and angst as well. I give a little more grace because I think if at that level, I don't like giving grace at the lower level, but if it's going, they know a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes we don't really know. And I don't like to judge. And if he gets us into a prolonged war, then I think there's going to be a lot of people on our side that have a problem. And I think he knows that. But I don't think he wants to see us have a prolonged problem. You raise your hand first, and then we'll go to Lucia.
Interesting, because just last night I read an article written probably about 12, 16 years ago. And basically the guy said the problem is United States would rather see 5 or 6 of our largest cities go up in a nuclear holocaust than to spend a few thousand lives to stop it from happening. Our leadership in Iran doesn't care if you turn the entire country into the world's largest glass factory. They will do what they're going to do. And I know there's a lot of trouble in Europe, but it didn't start with the Gulf War. I had a friend in the 80s, was an MP, And off duty, he hired himself out at the bars to keep the Muslims from tearing the place up, the Turks in particular. So this has been an ongoing problem. Only the news is making it a problem today, but this has been going back at least since the late 80s and probably before that.
Thousands of years, probably. So, I mean, yeah. And so that's, I hear what you're saying, but I think there's probably stuff going on that if we don't handle it properly, we will have a city go up. And I don't, but it's way above my pay grade for sure. You know what I'm saying? And and that's why I give a little more. What Bush and those guys did in the old days, it's obvious, and it was a problem.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
He's right. I was stationed in Germany then, and it didn't start with the Gulf Wars. It was already there and growing. But anyways, the other thing is that I'm a veteran, and I'm willing to believe and trust that the team that President Trump has with him is the better team than we've had in quite a long time. And they know what they're doing. And he's got extremely good intelligence. And this isn't going to turn into one of those never-ending wars. I don't believe it. And I will be able to say after that I was right. I am that.
But we have to have a conversation, and we have to have a reasonable
Also,
conversation.
one other
about it.
thing is that he is working on the medicine. My medicine, I just paid $12 for what I used to pay $96 for. So he is working on it.
And I will tell you, I get some medicine from India too. So I understand what and I literally yesterday, I went and picked up some today, but yesterday I looked up, I said, well, what's the cost now? It's $1 a pill. I paid 15 cents a pill. I'm like, what do I do? No, it's one of the alternatives.
One question. When were you in Germany?
Yeah.
Okay. In 2015, 2016, Angela Merkel let in, I don't know, a couple of million Arab men from Syria.
She did that. We didn't do it.
I know, but what I'm saying is everything changed.
Yeah. And everything
changed.
Yeah. Oh, it was, and it goes back to that numbers page or example with the ball. They overlet so many people in there. It was incredible. I have a good friend that was married to a German girl that their business was over there. So they lived over there in Baden-Baden. And she was, we used to go vacation with them a lot. She talked about, and she was okay with letting all those people in. Back in that 14, 15, 16 time frame, she was okay with it.
Absolutely.
You know what she says now, or at least several years ago, was yeah, it's enough. But it was all the German guilt of the old days. No, we can't be. I'm like, what are you talking about?
During that time, I became active in the AfD, which is the Alternative for Deutschland. Only now is that the popular party in Germany, and people just thought I was terrible because I thought nationalism was not a dirty word.
Right. I don't think it is either. You can't say, oh, we can't have borders around our country, but Nancy Pelosi's got the biggest walls around her house all day long. Same thing with the Pope.
Exactly.
The Vatican has, you go there, they got walls everywhere.
But it's a plan. It is a plan from the elite class.
Yes, it definitely is. It definitely is. I agree with that. Yes. And people that don't believe that, I try to give the example. My business was, we were in family office. We represented clients that had a lot of money. When you have a lot of money, you're living off the interest of your interest.
Right.
You start doing some long range planning for where your kids and your grandkids and they call them in perpetuity trust. To take care of the kids, take it out of the estate tax, and take care of the kids and grandkids and people. In perpetuity, forever. If they were doing that in the 90s and early 2000s, we were doing that with new money, new tech money, and all that kind of stuff. Even some old money. What do you think the Rockefellers were doing in the early 1900s? Those people had real money. Look at, go up to, what's the Vanderbilt or whatever the house up there in Nashville. What's Biltmore House? Yeah, sorry. You go up there. I mean, that is. I mean, you can't believe what kind of money that would have cost back in those days. To build. Oh yeah, they had stuff all the way. You look at some of the old historical stuff they had in New York City. That would blow your mind. It was like, holy, where is the money coming from? But all they had to do was make an extra penny or two on a gallon of gas or oil or whatever they were selling and, distributing out, and they made massive amounts of money. What kind of planning do you think the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all those people did? And they don't care. I don't think they care about we're just cattle in many ways. And I hate to say it. Maybe it sounds conspiratorial or whatever. But their interest is about themselves and their long-term plans and all that kind of stuff. So we're all in agreement on this. Please say we are.
All right. I'm going to say, trust the process. And
until the process starts falling down. But hey,
please don't listen to everything you hear. Everything you see, even what you see, you have to be very careful about what you allow to form your opinion and allow yourself to align with.
Right.
Trust the process. I really believe that we've got a good leader. I think Trump is in there for the good. I know that he loves our young men. Because of his State of the Union address, he honored our young men there. So I know he's got a heart for these young military people that are in serving. So trust the process. And alluding to the robber barons, you might call them the robber barons, but I call them righteous capitalists.
Sure.
Because
I'm with you. Go ahead.
They were smart enough in the process of doing all this. And if you will go back and check and see their record, I'm going to say probably 65 to 75% of them gave their money away and created foundations.
Yep. Yeah, they did.
But they got a reputation for being a robber baron. But I believe that God raised them up as righteous capitalists to get our country going.
And I agree with you, because they did take our country and the world to a next level that has allowed us to benefit greatly in that respect. Hold on.
I heard the Prime Minister of Spain here a couple of weeks ago on the radio saying that he was going to let in 500,000 immigrants to offset the extreme right that was trying to take over their country. And
it is about 550,000 immigrants that gave us citizenship.
If you look, I got an email years ago from somebody in England, in the UK. If you look at all the mayors of the big cities, or all the cities, they're all Muslim.
Yeah,
they're Muslim. Yes. But there's a wave in Europe,
and that's not a prejudice thing. That's not a racial or religious. I mean, kind of one of this. It's a power struggle, and for their perspective, it is a long-term plan, and they literally tell you this is what we're going to do, and we don't listen to them. Who made that comment? When somebody tells you something, you ought to listen.
But there's a lot of countries in Europe that are following Trump as conservative and far right, and not far right, but just not liberal. And they can't stand it.
Well, look at Poland. Look at some of those former Eastern Bloc countries. France. They know. I mean, but those guys, Poland and those guys, are fighting it because they've experienced it. When I first started going to Poland, I thought all of them were going to hate the Germans because of what they did in World War II. That's kind of from our perspective. They hated the Russians and living under communism because they were under communism for a whole lot longer than under 40 couple years of the Nazis. They really hate communism, and that's why they're not falling for this BS that's going on today. The French people think, they've lived under capitalism and, us saving them in the Second World War and all this. And first it's like, but they feel all good and good. Oh, we want to help everybody. Well, guess what? You're going to destroy your own country, and look what's going on. Yes, ma'am.
And part of that plan also include infiltrating our education system
Yes.
and planting ideas and cultivating them, and like frog in the pot, turn the water up gradually.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a whole nation that sat back and let President Bush say religion of peace. This is an ideology of conquest, and that's exactly what they're here and in Europe to do. And it's time to quit being so dad blasted naive.
Well, the best example of it is we've literally sat around and we're okay with children changing their sex.
I know.
We're not okay with them getting a tattoo until they're at least 18 or drinking a beer until they're 21. But if they think they might be a girl or a boy, because then, okay, let's go ahead and change it and the parents have no rights. It's like, are we kidding me? You want to talk? That's to me the example of the pot. I mean, literally, if a president of the United States, and I think, did Trump say this on at the State of the Union? Something about if he had made that comment 15 years earlier, you would have taken him out on the 25th. I mean, I don't think he said 20, but you would have taken him out on the 25th Amendment as being insane. I mean, it's insanity. Why? Where did it become normal to sit there and say, "Oh, it's okay to let kids change their sex"? I get it. I mean, I took an embryology. I know there's some things get mixed up. It's a godly miracle that we're not all screwed up and don't really know what sex we are. And there are probably a small group of some people out there that are suffering through something, but they took kids that were normal kids and turned them into something else. And we have some firsthand experience with it, and it's just bizarre. Did you want to say something?
Something that you got to think about, though, on your point. Yeah, we strive for peace, and that's what we prefer. But you have to know your enemy, and unless I have a copy of it for just purposes of knowing my enemy. I have a copy of the Quran. I know what it says. The Quran, they are not peaceful. They have no intention of being peaceful. They are liars. And they started the war in the 60s against Christianity by attacking Europe on a regular basis through terrorism. They've been attacking Germany, England, France, Italy, all the time with bombs and everything else, killing civilians for centuries. And we have turned around and turned a blind eye thinking it's their problem and not ours. Until those of us who worn a uniform, we signed up to go kick people's behinds when we get out of line. We don't want to do it, but that's what we're there for. And we would rather fight them on their land instead of fighting them here, where they're killing our people, our innocent civilians.
So I hear you, and I agree with your point. The only thing is, in Texas, Sharia law, they're having a vote.
It's on the ballot on Tuesday.
They are having communities that are only Muslim. We have let in so many of our enemies are in here. We need our people here to be protected, and we don't do it. I think Trump let in something like 650,000 university students from China because we're not smart enough to go to university. Our education system. We have the H-1B visas. I mean, we just to
he has cut out the H-1B visas. You can still get one, but the company that sponsors you for that visa, it's outrageous amount of money.
You got to pay $100,000.
I don't know that. That may be new. I don't know it, but we are importing our enemies here into our cities, countryside. China has God knows how many acres of farmland here.
That's been going on before.
I know.
That was Biden.
That was before Biden.
But yeah, the enemy is within. The enemy is here.
Kelly, you want to say? Okay. But see, please go ahead.
I've heard on the radio too that we have 170 military people in Europe that have been attacked by Iran with their bombs, and they're nothing but vegetables. They've destroyed their brain, and we're supposed to just sit back and ignore it.
There's a lot of things they don't tell us, they don't disclose because they don't want public opinion going against them.
Also, Obama and Biden gave the Iran $100 billion.
Yeah, whatever it was. I can't remember. It was a lot.
For, for all the
Pallets of cash.
piles of cash. It's just,
right.
The enemy is within, and
Yes,
they
right.
even have the presidency.
so Trump just needs to
Dark money.
deport all the Somalis.
I think Olga's got a question on
Well,
the.
not question. Deb online is watching and she's pointing out what's happening in New York.
Oh,
The Muslim. Who is there?
Deb.
Deb online.
Deb Masson.
No, different. But the Deb from New York City.
She's pointing out to pay attention to what's happening in New York. Right? How they're Muslim.
Yeah.
The snowstorm tested him.
Yeah, yeah.
But he paid ordinary people $30 an hour to clean the streets. Am I right?
No, 19.
No, we didn't get
$19
that
an
far.
hour. They didn't get that far, and he still had to produce 2 forms of ID.
All of it.
It's like, hold on, you don't want people to giving you an ID to vote, but you want them to produce paperwork to shovel snow. Seriously? I mean, let everybody shovel snow.
If you pay attention at our meeting without mentioning names, when we were doing roll call, even though the roll call was on the piece of paper, so we did not have to call the 100 people's name out loud, one of our active members refused to sign the ballot, claiming that they're not in New York shoveling the snow. I'm like, well, but we are Republicans supporting identification and things like that. Why would you compare yourself to?
We had the whole argument of how people vote online and how we're going to know how people vote, while the same person who wanted to know how people online and Zoom were voting, but didn't want to identify how they're voting. You represent your precincts. You're a representative. Your vote is going to be public, as far as I'm concerned.
We compared. We hear just to where I'm getting with this, changing the subject a little bit. We are for identification. We believe in that, especially in voting. If we cannot practice that custom in our precinct and our GOP meetings, like why not? I've heard from our friends at Pickens GOP, they passed a resolution that when you check into their meetings, when you get credential, you have to show ID.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a pain to some? Probably, but it's a great practice.
Sure.
Drew McKissick, I don't know himself or the Rules Committee,
Rules Committee, Tony did it 2 years ago.
wrote a letter because some of the people that are not friendly to the Pickens GOP complained to the state party that they have to now show ID to go to the meeting. The Rules Committee of State Party issued a letter saying, oh, it's not required, you don't have to do it. Well, Pickens GOP, they repassed the resolution. If you want to participate,
If you want to vote at your business meeting, you're gonna show an ID.
you have to, and they don't care what Drew said.
But everybody shows an ID. It's not like they're singling out the rhinos, and you got we all ought to openly show our ID to vote at our business meetings.
So anyway, just on Monday, the comment that we're in New York, I mean, the person compared themselves to basically a Muslim, what do you call it, communist. That's why they wouldn't sign
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Well, and that's why I was going to follow up with your stuff and how it relates back to your angst, our angst over going into Iran and doing more stuff militarily. These never-ending wars, and it should be peace. The press tries to manipulate us. The left tries to manipulate us. The right sometimes tries to manipulate us. They're trying to divide people away from Trump. That's why I'm giving him a lot of grace, because there's so many other things out there that he's doing good, and he hasn't really. I think he's going to, negotiate from a position of power and hopefully get what he get. I'm super disappointed in the Ukraine thing. I think he's disappointed. I think it's made me question what the Russians may be doing and Putin a little bit more about why can't you? I'm not sure who is at fault, whether it's Ukraine or Russia or all. I don't know. There's something very, very strange about it, but I don't think we need to be our people bleeding, and we shouldn't be spending a ton of money over there to do it like we have. It could be NATO. It could, I mean, the whole thing is rather complex, but I think it's even perplexed Trump on that. But what can you do if you can't get them? It does. It takes one party to start a war. It takes two parties to end it. And he can't get both of them to do it. Even him. And he seems to have done it in other places that has saved us. But that's why local politics is so much harder than national politics. We all can kind of have this debate and talk about it and see how they're trying to split us and all that stuff. But that same thing goes on here. There were people in that meeting on Monday that are trying to split us when we're all supposed to be Trump supporting America First people.
So can
You
I
want to
say
say
something
something?
about the business meeting?
Sure, we can talk about it.
I couldn't. I texted you in a group if you could send me the link,
Okay.
and I didn't get the link. But somebody, I think it was David, ultimately sent me a link, and I could not hear it very well at all.
Right.
It sounded really confusing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see very much.
So for clarification, and this was, we were not going to initially brought, the importance of Monday meeting was our ECs, the importance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
We had to get the
I
two-thirds.
realized that.
So number one, just again, for clarification, the Zoom was not broadly out there, the Zoom link, because it was technically for the ECs to be able to get up and vote. If we had.
Because the chat will get full and we didn't want confusion for the teller committee.
Arguments
Right.
for meetings that were allowing people on that.
Are not voters.
Right.
Right. That being said, last minute, we did decide to broadcast the meeting on other platforms so
Right.
others can watch.
And it's not like we weren't going to broadcast it anyhow. You say kind of
Right.
last minute, but I mean,
Right.
we
Well,
like
maybe it was me
broadcast.
because maybe it was me because it gets overwhelming when you have to like.
The production crew gets overwhelmed, but we were going to broadcast. We were going to broadcast it no matter what.
So few parts about.
Who wants to volunteer to be on production staff? We need more help.
You were not on the Zoom, I guess, and again, I didn't see the message until later. You were, you didn't, I guess, get the recommendation. Well, we found out the Zoom was not clear because there were people on it and whatever.
Apparently, the YouTube
But if
broadcast,
you
the
were
other
watching on YouTube,
was
everyone,
clear.
so even people on Zoom, the voters, they were watching it on YouTube, which they could hear everything, and they were only voting on Zoom.
Wow.
That was the solution at the time.
Oh.
And when someone complained, not here, obviously, that, oh, look, Jeff Davis had camera on himself. The whole meeting. Well, Jeff Davis had camera on himself because he was speaking to the voters.
And I was in the Zoom.
He was in the Zoom, and the purpose of
I've not heard that.
is hearing the person leading the meeting, so they knew
Was my
what
hair
was happening, what they had to do, what they had to vote. That being said, we do have a better plan
Oh, yeah.
for next time that hopefully it will be good for the Zoom.
We have bought a camera that is going to face the speaker. I did that this week.
So people will be able to see the whole room. We do.
I want people to hear and see what they're saying, what people are saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Insinuation that we want to create chaos, whatever.
No.
It's not true.
That's not my point. The
And I don't
point
think you were
was
saying
that just didn't come over.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, it's not
Yeah.
true.
Well, that's quite frankly why we like to do the meetings here
Exactly.
when we do the hybrids, because everything's all set up. You know how much work it was to get our people to set up the credentialing and all that stuff. I mean, it was a lot of work. And I even told them, like, do not stress about it. Take it easy. This is not, we don't have to have all the pomp and circumstance and the fanciness of that we do at our normal big quarterly meetings or whatnot. But I'm like, because we shouldn't be doing this. We should have been able to just walk in here, the credentialing stuff, make it easy.
In person.
Yes, in person as much as possible. And people that think they want to come in person, they're welcome to.
But also to clarify, there were two people, maybe, anyway, that doesn't matter. But at the end of the evening, we did get great feedback from those attending via Zoom. I think one person said that there were a few kinks, obviously, with the sound, whatever, that we were able to figure out along the way. but they were thankful that they were able to attend via Zoom. One person from the very southern precinct way by Lawrence County almost, I mean, for her to be able to drive to the Taylor's library will take her probably 45 minutes.
At least, and on back roads, and it's
So
yeah,
I think
and it does. And that precinct attaches to Lawrence County.
it
Yes.
did serve the purpose of
Yeah.
what we wanted.
Let me say, you showed a whole lot of patience. Really? Monday night. I couldn't. I got so tired of saying some people stand up. It was just, oh my God. But also the prayer that the guy gave.
Yes.
Is that going to be? You going to send that out on something?
I can.
Joe's, yes, yes.
You said you were going to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Added into the minutes of the record. Yeah.
That was just.
But we can set it out because he was spot on. I mean, and he's a Bob Jones guy. He's our chair of our credentialing committee. He's a Bob Jones guy. He's a pastor, or minister, I guess. I mean, it's, and it pains him. I mean, people were talking about, how do we credentialing? We have probably, because everybody on our teller and credentialing committee, they're all, election integrity people. They are, hard. I mean, they make me show my ID, it's like, okay, but I mean, it's like, you really think you're not questioning Jeff Davis, you're questioning our teller and credentialing committee, for Elizabeth G. Scott to stand up at the last meeting and question that same resolution or motion that we passed, oh, I used to be on the rules committee. I'm not questioning the rules committee. The rules committee is the one where the idea came from, where they drafted it. I mean, absolutely, she's questioning the rules committee. She's questioning Dr. Sheen. She's questioning our chair of the rules committee. She's questioning them, but she's doing it because she's got the derangement syndrome, just like people have the Trump derangement syndrome. They have the Jeff Davis derangement
Ruth
syndrome.
online,
Yes.
Ruth online made a comment. Ruthie was not there, so she said, "Same old at the meetings, huh?" I would say,
Oh.
new faces, same tactics.
Same tactics, new faces, but I will tell you, we elected Emerson 70-9. So that's kind of your 70-9. So that's kind of your indication of what's out there. It doesn't matter what we could all, and we did all. I mean, believe, but there's always going to be that minority out there. I think there is always a group that is going to be, and if you look at on the national stage, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, I like them. I got no problem with this stuff. I like some libertarian principles. Is where I kind of came from myself. But I'm like, they are going to cause trouble. I don't care who it is. It's whether it's Trump or they're just always going to do it. The opposite side, no matter what it is. Yeah, and I think yesterday the allegedly the head of the World Economic Forum resigned because of the Epstein stuff. Massey puts out a post about it. Not Larry, the World Economic Forum. It was some other guy.
No, not Ellison.
No, they got the new guy.
From Harvard, I think, resigned.
Yeah, there's some. Well, the Harvard guy, yeah.
President. Yeah.
Maybe it's somebody else. But Thomas Massey makes a post saying, so and so resigned. You're welcome.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's going to empower him to keep doing all. I don't think Trump's trying to hide something. Maybe he is. Maybe he's trying to protect other people. I don't think he's trying to. I don't really know. He seems to have had his battles with Epstein. You know what? That's going to screw up everything, and we're going to get Gavin Newsom as our next president because the Trump MAGA America First base all splits itself. We need to wake up a little bit about it. I really don't think, if I thought Trump was doing some really bad things, yes, I think he dated a lot of people and did a lot of, whatever. The guy doesn't even drink. So, I mean, it's pretty hard to get people that don't drink to do some pretty bad things at a party. I mean, drunk people
He ran on transparency.
I know. Yes.
It's a
I'm with you.
distraction. It's a distraction.
And I think that was his frustration. He felt it was a distraction off mission. I think he could have embraced it a little harder and pushed it out there. I've heard the comments, oh, it's going to take down some friends of mine. I've heard MTG say that. Yeah. Those people need to be taken down. I mean, I am in full agreement with all that kind of stuff. I like Lutnick and what he's been doing, but he physically. Whoa. I'm gonna eat that later. But he physically lived. His house physically abutted Epstein's house.
Absolutely.
it's now they can say a lot of I don't really know what's going on with all that stuff. I really don't. I saw something online that said Hillary Clinton said I've never met Jeffrey Epstein before. Is that did she really? I mean, there's no way she could have really said that. I mean, I haven't seen the official transcripts of it. There's no, how can she say that?
Well, they invited Maxwell. They invited Maxwell to their wedding of their daughter. So yeah, he doesn't know anything about that.
And Maxwell was the partner of somebody else who was invited, so she
was
didn't
it?
invite Maxwell Bella.
Oh, okay.
Who knows?
Who knows? I know, it's just an excuse.
But let me give you something that is the biggest dirt out there.
Yeah, go ahead.
And they will take it and they will go crazy with it. Go to the Epstein files and search, put it in quotes, Jeff Davis.
Are you there?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say I. Jeff Davis is in the Epstein files with some emails with Giselle Maxwell, whatever her name is. It's between the end of 2002, 2003. And it looks like they're kind of flirting around. I don't know, they met online or whatever the thing is.
Jeff Davis
and Giselle Maxwell. There's like, I don't know, 10 emails, but it's from Jeff Davis. The good point is it's before I met Olga, so she's not upset. It's not obviously me, but that's part of having a common name. But I mean, I can't wait till people start saying Jeff Davis is in the Epstein files. I mean that, but some people will say it. I was literally told by, was it you? Somebody told me today that the conversation is going on that it shouldn't have elected Emerson, 19-year-old kid, been coming here for 2 years. When he was senior in high school, he's now at Clemson. He's part of Clemson Young Republicans. He's part of TPUSA over at Clemson, and he's doing some stuff with the Young Americans for Liberty and all that kind of stuff. We want to promote youth to be involved. Everybody agrees with promoting youth and all that kind of stuff. Well, now the rumor that's being spread is apparently we shouldn't have elected him because if something happens to me, Emerson will be raised up to be chair of the Greenville County Republican Party. That is not how it works, number one. I mean, if I pass or die or resign or quit, whatever, take off, the first vice chair, we have another election, right? So, you can elect Emerson, you can elect, somebody completely different, whatever. But I'm like, why would somebody spread that rumor to confuse people? It is a lie. I mean, we passed the resolution.
Clarify what exactly was said.
Oh, is there more?
Yes, there was more. The concern was not, if something happened to Jeff. It happened. The conversation was, why would we elect Emerson right now? What's going to happen when Jeff goes to jail?
I have heard that part. I'll let her.
My response was, well, he will lead the party from behind bars.
Yeah.
Hey, Al Capone did it. I can do it. I was going to be happy to let Donald Trump run the country from behind jails. I was voting for the guy no matter where he was sitting at the time, and he'd do a better job than Kamala Harris. He really is funny. But I'm like, why are people? I mean, and these are people that were with us a year ago. I know, and we all know it.
It's the stupidest argument I have heard in my life.
I find this stuff entertaining, but I would enjoy it. I know we had to be out of the library. We used to have meetings till midnight in the old days.
It was one of our probably longest meetings, so we adjourned probably around midnight.
Yeah.
The
The end of it, no, it was the walkout that Nate staged. Because in what they did, why we had a problem electing Mike Duggan at the beginning, because they wouldn't come to the meetings to prevent us from having a 2/3 quorum to be able to elect an officer. The normal quorum is only 25. 2/3 quorum is like 100 people or 80 people. So I mean, that's the issue, and they would not come just to make sure we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't do business. What was the most important business? Monday night, debating about how we allocate the coffee purchases or drinking. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, I mean, really? Yeah. and the lawn service. I will have the discussion and the debate about the finances of this place in the office, the benefits all day long, but they don't want to do that. They just want to disrupt the meeting.
You should have to pay for that.
Well,
I'm like, hold on.
full
How much do you think?
disclosure, until last year, I was the
She
one
was cutting.
cutting the grass.
So
I have received zero from anyone. Then we did have Lenore's husband. that
he was
also
very helpful,
was
but they travel a lot too.
If someone tried to tell Lenore that we don't appreciate it or never gave him credit, no, I was able to spend my Saturdays working on my yard instead of here when Lenore's husband cut the grass.
And when I was in the middle of getting chemo, she didn't really want to leave me at home by myself.
That
So
is when we
thank you.
decided to allocate budget for that. But
Yes.
I was doing it. And I like exercise, so it's not like I was miserable, but I could have spent the time doing something else. And
having somebody cut the grass here has been the best thing that we've ever spent the money on, because I can't tell you. I mean, remember the old days, people.
Such an issue with it, she can come cut the grass.
Well, I agree. And that person, the two people complaining, don't contribute anything. Why are you worried about our budget when you don't contribute? So we're going to figure that out
The
too.
reason it's also, it's not only
Oh.
that we have we're having it cut because we don't want to do it. It's on the schedule, right? We had once or twice, we let the grass go because again, our volunteer was traveling, Jeff was sick, and then we get complaints how bad the yard looks. Now it's on the schedule. It's taken care of. No one has to worry about it.
Think about when's the last time you heard, the old rhinos complaining about the grass being too long here at the office. We hadn't heard it in 2 years, since we've been paying to get somebody to cut it.
Supporting one of our patriots, one of our EC is doing it. Aren't we supposed to support our patriots?
Veteran-owned business.
Veteran-owned businesses.
And-
We hired Jeff's sister to do it.
I have a precedence for Jeff being able to continue serving as chairman of the party while in jail. In 1946, while serving as mayor of Boston.
Speak louder. We want to get this.
Curley was convicted of mail fraud, sentenced to 6 to 18 months in federal prison, and continued to serve as mayor while incarcerated. There's a precedence.
All right.
Get over yourself. And if
I
you-
need no excuse now.
And if you're worried about Emerson automatically becoming chairperson, under our rule 4C6, I will be part of that.
I'm not worried.
Speak loud or grab a mic.
Okay. A vacancy in the office of county chairman shall not cause the vice chairman to succeed to the office of county chairman unless elected thereto by the county executive committee.
So we'll have a new election.
So that's
Another
another
election.
proof how someone who complained or made comments about it used to be a GCRP officer and knows zero about the rules. Because they also don't know if someone, I don't know why we are even talking about it.
I don't know why we are
If
here.
someone goes to jail, it does not
Seems like I'm
mean
promoting them.
they are being
Not
kicked
yet, a
out
little bit.
from their position either.
No.
Yeah.
Just-
Remember there was a case in York County.
Yes, York
The
County
chairman
chair,
was
2 terms ago.
arrested and indicted of child.
Child abuse. Yeah, not good.
So that is a criminal case. For everyone's disclosure, Jeff is not being investigated in any criminal case. None of that. So we're not talking about crime. And that chairman.
Not yet. There is no statute of limitations. I'm sorry.
Even in York County, the chairman did not resign from if I remember right.
They pressured him at the end. They were about to vote him out, and so
To resign.
he wouldn't resign at first, but then they eventually got him.
Jeff,
And we
before,
have a request for organic coffee, by the way.
We will send you a antidote donation link right now.
Jeff, before we leave, before,
That's bad, that's bad.
Remember,
Orange is the new black.
Before we leave today, can you address the Save the Vote,
Save America Act?
Save America Act that the Senate is holding up and talking about the soft filibuster and what kind of strategy should loyal Americans do? Do we want to go to the I don't know. I know Mitch McConnell is the one holding up the vote. That's sorry, rascals.
Mitch and John Thune, but
no,
yes,
it's McConnell.
McConnell's behind it, but yeah,
McConnell's behind it, and there are 200 votes that the bills that the Congress has passed that they've sat on for the past year.
Yeah.
So,
but the problem is the people that are in the chair positions, their state doesn't do anything to force the issue.
yeah,
We can sit there screaming all we want at our senators, and our senators will do what we want because we're going to scream at them and they don't like it.
Exactly.
But the problem is you've got senators that are in chair positions that are their people in their district won't even call them because they're like, well, they're doing a good job. They're giving money. That's all they care about.
Yeah. But we can put pressure.
The rest of the country.
Yeah, I know. And my understanding, obviously, I think we all support the Save America Act.
Absolutely.
It's a voter ID, for federal elections. Technically, I don't think the feds can mess with state elections. I think, Trump has said, we'll have ICE at voting locations, I think, to make sure. I think that was just all talk to kind of wake some people up, scare some people about some things. I don't want the feds interfering in local elections and all that kind of stuff. But there are some states that have problems. I mean, look at our state, what we had with, what's his name? Howie Knapp, who's now been arrested and indicted on some things. He and his number one person there at the state election commission. Howard Knapp was the executive director of the state election commission until he was arrested. He was the one where his girlfriend, who's the number one or two person there, put a tape in there while he's married. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The whole thing. But look at the issue. Howard Knapp is a federal graduate. I was elected chair here, and I just reached out to try to talk to him. I talked to Conway. I mean, he's our local guy for Greenville County. I reached out to I'm a GOP chair and a fellow alumni from the Citadel. He would not talk to me or respond or anything. I've seen FOIA documents of things that he had said about our friend that was the MAGA America First chair in Horry County. That was sent to me, and I'm like, "What? This is all." He was working with Drew McKissick in the state party on some things. That type of stuff needs to get cleaned up, and if we got to get the feds in to clean up, that's fine. What?
Remember, he sent us an email by.
Oh yes. He was apparently on our mySCGOP emails, and he forwarded it, but instead of to Hope, what's Hope? Hope Walker was the
director of state party.
Yeah. Instead of sending it to Hope at SCGOP, he sent it to Hope at mySCGOP. And so I think we actually wrote an article that's like, why is the head executive director of the state election commission trying to forward our email to the executive director of the SCGOP? Because they were all working together. And that's, I don't want him working with the state party on interpolitics stuff and all that kind of jazz. I don't want him working with the Democrat Party working on, what's the difference? You need to be professional and teach us and let us figure out and ask questions about the election system, which is what we do with Conway. But I don't expect Conway to be promoting the Greenville GOP over the Democratic, party, in Greenville, that type of stuff. But back to your question, how much calling of Lindsey Graham or Tim Scott is that going to help? But the big problem is that 60 vote
filibuster.
Well, that thing,
it's not so much the filibuster rule that's the problem. The problem is that somewhere at some point in time they've allowed these senators to just say, "Oh, I filibuster," but you don't have to do anything.
Right, I know. And
if you make them talk for 8 hours,
and I'm all about that. Do the work, because it's too easy right now to just say,
if we didn't have the filibuster, 51 votes would pass the bill.
Yes,
right?
or in our case, 50 votes plus Vance to break the tie. The problem that people are saying is that I don't know if we got the 50 votes out of the Republicans to get it to a tie.
Yeah,
because Mitch McConnell's not going to vote for it, right? And Mitch apparently is against it, so he's one, and Murkowski. So that's your three.
Collins is asking for it.
No.
Ashley?
No, not that Collins. The other Collins from
From Maine.
Maine. But whatever. But Susan Collins,
She's always.
it's another one of those shiny objects. I hope, and Trump obviously pushed it at the State of the Union, and hopefully hopefully they can push some people to do it. But it's pretty darn sad state of affairs that it's the Senate Republicans that are the problem, which is very similar to what we're fighting down here. Our problem is not Democrats at the State House. Our problem are the Republicans. There's some.
Do we need to keep the filibuster for Republicans' sake?
No.
They're gonna. I'm of the belief.
As soon as they get.
I'm of the belief if they get the power, they will nuke it
They've already
themselves.
done it once. They did it with Harry Reid to get Obamacare when we finished it. They
Oh.
are not above doing
Hold
it.
on.
I have one other problem with filibuster. They're getting all their time tied up in this bill. When we got a government that needs to be opened back up.
Yep.
And they're not doing their job, taking care of getting the government back open completely.
Yeah,
I'm
agree.
all for if any department of the government shut down because of funding, then every one of them should sacrifice their paycheck until it's resolved.
Absolutely.
I feel the
How
same.
about they pass an actual budget instead of continuing resolution? Hey,
Well, that's the thing. The big beautiful bill is a budget,
No, it's not.
but it left out that.
Not the big
one
beautiful
sentence.
bill.
It's
No,
not.
but what they did, they think they did pass the budget. They just took out that one
They took
piece.
that one piece of it out.
Yeah.
And they-
But when did this fiscal year start? October 1st. The federal government works off October 1st to September 30th.
Oh, really?
Yeah, ICE is still getting paid.
Huh?
ICE is getting paid.
Oh yeah, they got plenty of money.
Homeland Security's not, but that's
So yeah, they're messing with TSA.
1972 is in July, 1st of July. Yes, they keep pushing it back. And they had a problem filling funding at that time. And everybody in Germany,
Hold on.
everybody in the military overseas got involuntarily extended for 90 days.
Yep. Yep.
And they kept that date ever since.
Yeah. It's one of those things you really have to know the interior workings of everything, and if you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So
Oh, exactly.
okay, kids, y'all are speaking into the mic. I will tell you, people that watch online will say we couldn't hear the speaker, but we heard everybody else. Yeah, like, okay. So yeah, sidebar. So take your sidebar outside. I'm just kidding. But what goes on in DC, it's an entirely different animal. I mean, I will tell you, we after the meeting that we were at in Columbia on Wednesday, several of us all went out to dinner, and Paul Dance came to dinner too. He and some of his people from his team, and he was telling us some of what he had done. Just a couple of them sitting across the table of what he had done with the 2020 election stuff, how White House sent him down to Georgia, and what he was seeing down there in Georgia. The stuff behind the scenes there, I mean, is far worse. I hate to say far worse. It's just it's things we don't really know. I mean, his point was, hey, the RNC, they were like, oh, we're done with Trump, we can get rid of him. Who's running the RNC back then, right? It was, what's her name? And the number two person was Drew McKissick, right? So he was like, they weren't prepared. They didn't have the lawyers coming out. They weren't showing up. I mean, they weren't, just none of that. They sent up some lawyers and then called them back. And Georgia was one of the critical ones at the time that could have flipped everything. And,
Georgia was basically the frying pan that it was all baking in.
That's
If
right.
we could have pointed out the criminality going on in Georgia, that would have just made it easier for that to prove it in Arizona,
right,
in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, because Georgia, it was so well organized in Georgia that it was so out there. The other places hit it very well.
and it was only what do you need, 11,000 votes or something
It
like
would
that.
have been easier to prove if you could prove it here with all this.
And we spent how many years talking about Trump calling Raffensperger or Kemp or whomever he called, saying, find it. That's just talk. I mean, that's just, find me 11,000 votes. I don't think he was saying fabricate 11,000 votes. I don't think so. I mean, I can have the discussion and the argument, but I mean, there was, come on, what do you think people are doing, in elections? They're trying to, and anybody that thinks that our elections are secure You know, I mean, thousands of years, ever since there's been elections, people have cheated elections. Right. But why would you think it's now all perfect? I mean, I saw this morning, you know, I'm flipping through stuff on social media. Apparently, Panera Bread has been breached and 5.1 million contacts have been, you know, released out into the. I'm like, you know, if you don't think, I mean, I'm just telling you, where there's a will, there's a way, and people can get into that stuff. I mean, it can be cheated and violated, you know, and who's freaking out because, you know, the FBI and Homeland Security, whomever's down there in Georgia trying to find stuff, you know. I mean, it's just why? It's just, you know, grab the mic. Yes, ma'am. But I'm like, you know, it's there, and I don't care. I don't personally know. Obviously, in the beginning, I was more hesitant to go as a lawyer. I don't want to sit there and say something one way or the other till I've built some confidence over time because there's just too many strange things happening, you know. But I'm like, but I've always said I don't care if there's fraud or no fraud. If 5 or 10 or 20% of the people out there think there is fraud, you need to attack it and look at it head on, full speed, and say, you know what, we got to figure this out, because I know too many people say, I don't go vote because, you know, I don't trust the election machine. And I'll let you make your comment, but back to our meeting on Monday, I won't give the person's name yet. I've already had one person that has said that they don't want to come back to another one of those meetings. Did I say that? Did we talk about it in the beginning? Yeah, because it was such a turnoff. They were a proxy. They came to the meeting and they told their leadership in their precinct, don't ever ask me to do that again. It was such a bad taste. You know, so don't tell me your main number one cause is getting voter turnout, and then you go and create a scene at a meeting that turns people off to not participate in politics. You know, that's our meeting. I'm sure we get make sure this person votes. I'm curious to find out. I don't think they're mad at me for creating a scene. You know, I mean, I was reserved and try to be reserved about it, and I want people to see the idiocy of the other side. You know, because I love seeing the idiocy of the Democrats not standing up. You know, Tuesday night and all the things they were doing. But I mean, we had the exact same thing the night before. You know, and those people are complaining about the Democrats creating a scene at the State of the Union. And they're creating a scene at our meeting. It makes no sense. It's okay. I'm not. They have all the ability to come talk to us. And y'all heard it. I was like, we had all these multiple meetings to come talk about. I don't have to do that. They wanted to come to the meeting, create a scene, and waste everybody else's time, as opposed to get what they want accomplished.
Jeff, can I make a comment
Sure.
about that? I made the motion to shut the meeting down at 8
Yeah.
o'clock.
Yes.
You don't know how many new friends I have now.
Which is true, because nobody wants to say, I'm about the only person that would like to stand
Good
in
job,
for midnight.
Terry is your biggest fan, for
No,
sure.
but I had people come up. I had 2 people come to say, "You're literally a genius."
Yes.
And
People were
Terry
Thank
was-
you.
Terry
Well,
was-
he was a genius about that one piece. It screwed everything else up.
That's
Terry is not, she's not like, I don't even know whether she's watching, but Terry was thankful that she didn't have to pick up all the chairs too. It was a smooth, you know, like we always tell people, I'm just gonna remind everyone on behalf of the team. We do all of it ourselves. Terry is the one who reserves rooms, so she's usually always the first one there, and
She had to be there at 4:30 to get the room. I said, I'll give it away.
She puts the chairs out, and there are people that help, but when they help more, Terry is very thankful because, you know, the name on the reservation is her name. If we mess up, we stay longer. It's not really GOP that's getting in trouble. It's Terry.
Sure.
Not that
Personally,
got
get in trouble,
in
yes.
trouble, but just FYI. But she was very thankful that it went smooth after we adjourned. I think because everyone was happy. So people, yeah, everyone picked up.
And y'all notice the 5th item we voted on was 5 minutes before the adjournment. And it came up and it was literally done in 3 minutes. You know, like, okay, maybe your problem was, you know, you should have said at 7 p.m. We were adjourning instead of 8.
You do that at every meeting?
It's going to, if we're at a library, we're definitely, yes. Yeah, it'll be part of the standard procedure. So, yes, Rebecca.
I think it was an excellent meeting.
I thought it was good.
And kudos to you for your patience.
Thank you.
And I thought that the end of the meeting was better than the beginning.
Okay.
because we just had a limited time, which I thought was great strategy. But I thought it was a good meeting, and I was disappointed in the attitudes of those who got up to speak, because it came across to me as being very immature and childish, because it was like they were trying to beat their own drums and draw attention to themselves rather than communicate something that would be constructive to the meeting itself. But I thought it was good. But anyway, alluding back to Georgia,
Since you are from Georgia.
I moved up from Lawrenceville, Georgia in 2021. And no joke, I was sent 5 mail-in ballots.
Oh, wow.
There was cheating going on. Listen, don't believe what you hear. Know that Georgia is a cheating state. Atlanta is the worst. And Fulton County, I had a gun store. My husband and I had a gun store in DeKalb County for about 15 years. And we supplied Fulton Police, Fulton Sheriff, DeKalb Police, DeKalb Sheriff, Rockdale, and a lot of the other surrounding counties with their ordnance and their leather goods. Fulton County was the worst. So don't believe what you hear. Check out what you hear. Make sure that your information is true and good, and that we don't know. We don't know what we hear, but I know you're hearing the voice of one that received all of those mail-in ballots. There was cheating going on. I probably voted 5 or 6 times. And when I
There was cheating because I cheated. Yes, somebody else did.
When I went to get a printout of my voting record, they told me I hadn't even voted.
Really?
So there was something going on.
Well, and at the same breath, we bought before the 24 November election, with what Scott Gear and those guys were doing on that side of the fence on the election integrity stuff, they bought the data, $2,500, for right before the election and right after the election. Olga voted, but if I look on that data, it shows that she had not voted. Now, I think it says that she voted. But why was that data record not updated immediately to show that she had voted? I mean, it's just, it's all electronic. Why was it not accurate data?
That's because it was electronic.
Yes.
If we had paper ballots, I think it'd be a different issue.
And how do you know if your vote was counted? So that's why I'm a big believer. I mean, if we're election integrity and you're a representative of your precinct, your vote needs to be recorded. It needs to be out there. So, yes, sir.
I'd like to move to an update.
Sure. All right, we're going to do an update from our pro-life committee.
Don't have a lot to talk about. May 9th is going to be the third and final talk on socialism. It's going
March
9th. March 9th. It's going to be how to actually engage with the socialist in public and in private. In April, the educational outreach is going to be on organ harvesting. And another fun topic.
Lordy. You wouldn't think it exists, but it probably does exist.
Yeah, the hospitals are encouraged to harvest as many organs as they can, and the standards of determining when somebody dies is rather low.
Wow.
After that, we're going to have a talk on euthanasia. Carrie is likely, because it hasn't been confirmed, but she's likely going to be the speaker for that one. And in June, we're going to talk about theology of the body. Ultimately, almost all pro-life issues actually come down to unchastity before marriage and the destruction of the family. So we're going to talk about theology of the body. Trying to reach out to Christ on Main again to have the event there. And recently, I was shown a video from Abby Johnson. She's the one who worked for Planned Parenthood, realized everything she's been lied to, started speaking out against it, went to jail, actually had a movie based on her life. But sometime, I'm not exactly sure when, but probably, obviously within the last few weeks, she actually gave a talk and saying that the problem with not having pro-life legislation is not the Democrats, it's the Republicans. And she explicitly called out South Carolina Citizens for Life for blocking it. And they are the largest group. And again, they're they're not the only one. She tends to favor equal protection and personhood, but they're smaller, but they're just as vicious in attacking pro-life bills. I used an analogy for 40 Days for Life when we had our kickoff that coming from Illinois, I came from a place where people liked their teams, but they loved the sport. One time I went up to Illinois and asked a friend of mine, how's it going? And he said, well, 12 of our teams won this last weekend, and the team that lost to another Illinois team. So that's as good as it gets. Illinois, we love the sport. We like our teams, but in South Carolina, they love their bills, but they only like the idea of saving life. Rather than share the joy that some progress is being made, they tend to hunker down on their own particular bill. And now we got 5 bills. It was bad before when we had 3 splitting the votes. Now we got 5 bills that are going to be up for debate.
There's what's the saying that's out there that it's not about who gets, it's about it's a saying, I don't know, Washington Benjamin, about how much more successful we would be on certain things if people didn't need the credit. Somebody posted that. Was it Vince Lombardi? But somebody posted that, out of a particular group, posted that, saying, but then, almost in the next breath was asking for credit on something. I'm just like, you don't even, are you not, number one, reading the room, and number two, are you not, self-reflective?
But as a chairman, my stance has always been to support all the bills that would save lives, because that's what I'm here for, is to save lives. I have my favorite bill, but I'm not going to let that stop me from supporting the others.
Right.
If it's saving lives, I'm delighted. If it can save them all in one stroke, great. If it's going to take several steps, every time we save some lives, it's a step forward.
Yeah, and that's, some people call it incrementalism, but if it'll save one more life and it gets us one step closer, we're okay with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Abolition works as a goal. It does not work as a strategy.
Right.
No major moral effort has ever been successful in one stroke. Even after the Civil War, we still had slaves in this country. After 620,000 men died to decide the issue, the only slaves that were freed were the ones that seceded. Maryland and some other places, slavery was still allowed. Abolitionism is not a strategy; it's a goal.
And that's a good way to put it. Yes. Yes, sir. Please.
There's a movie that's out just recently. I had a chance to see, and it's about sex trafficking.
Which one?
And Greenville is high on the list, and it's because of your location here.
Between Atlanta
You
and
have your
Charlotte.
inland port. You're centrally located, and there's an organization out there that's trying to fight it locally. It's a father that had 2 young daughters, and he's devoted his entire life to an organization called Stretch.
Stretch or
Stretch.
Okay.
Switch.
Yeah.
And there are pastors' wives that are in this movie. And they're going to those houses of ill repute, and they're trying to convince them to do what they can.
Right.
So I guess now, being a new citizen of Greenville, it was amazing. I had no idea.
It's
it's scary. I'm sorry, I can't tell you, but I can get an answer for you, because Pastor Joe Duncan, him and his wife both, and that's where they fell in love.
Oh, really? Okay. There was another movie who put out the big movie. There was one that kind of talked about it broadly. I don't know if Greenville was in that one, but do text it to me because I would like to, share it out there. But I would tell you, I mean, I can remember since we've even been involved, probably 4 or 5 years ago, you were crazy if you mentioned sex trafficking. I did kind of like with the election terrorists. I'm like, I don't really know. I've never,
The Sound of Freedom.
It was Sound of Freedom, but that was like the big movie. You may be talking about a different sound. Was it Sound of Freedom or something?
I don't know what it is, but here's the thing, the big kicker. Right now, sex trafficking, if you get caught, it's only a misdemeanor.
Right, exactly.
The states around here, North Carolina and Georgia, it's all a felony. But currently in this state, it's a misdemeanor, which
I think the firing squad.
Did you,
blew me away.
Frank? Did you hear that? That's what he says. That sex trafficking, the penalty in South Carolina is a misdemeanor. We got to add it to our thing, just our list, because that is kind of an important thing. That somebody needs to make sure that that's a felony. If that's true, we need to, but that's something we can add into. I want to add to our page of stuff. But I will tell you, 4 or 5 years ago, you were crazy if you said that. Where I got really convinced about it, and that's why I want to tell this piece of the story, because it will register it in regular people's minds that don't come from that environment. We all agree that there's drug trafficking and all that kind of stuff. We can see it, maybe people have seen it in the local community, that type of thing. You may have never seen sex trafficking, but think about the money side of it. People do drug trafficking because of the money, right? The cartels and all that stuff, they're making money and having all that kind of stuff. When I was explained to me that you can sell a drug once and use it and it's gone, but a child or a female, or male, I mean, you can use it over and over and over and over.
They don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice. They're controlled by whatever means, violence or drugs or whatever, and then they just, and they can't get out of it. And it's, you look at the financial side of it, $100 20 times a day, it's $2,000.
The problem is that so many of them have been trafficked here from other countries. They don't even speak English. They don't know how to act.
Back to the whole point of the open borders. I mean, how much sex trafficking was increased because of the open border? So the Democrats can, have more power.
Yeah, this isn't.
So if you lose your drug load, you lose your money.
Right.
But they pay up front.
Oh yeah, those people are paying.
They're paying up front.
And then they don't know what do you do if you get here? You don't speak the language, you get here, and then what do? You get sucked into that kind of a world and you can't get out of it.
These aren't individual issues. They're all connected together like one massive web.
Yeah.
And some areas need more focus than others, but it does have to be a broad approach. You just can't focus on one aspect because everything else is going to keep supporting it, even if you do attack. So yeah, closing down the borders. Apparently it's working. Looks like Mexico might actually be cartel free here before too long. That was very desperate. What they did was very desperate. That was not the act of a content group of people.
Right. Oh yeah.
Doing what they're doing now.
Right. So.
Thank you.
But you also sit there and think, oh, it can't be in good civil society. We had a House rep, R.J. May. I know that wasn't actually, but he was traveling to South America to do whatever the heck he was doing. I mean, you can hear, they talk about it. They tried to find the people that were in those videos because they definitely look prepubescent, and they haven't been able to find the victims in South America, but that doesn't mean he wasn't participating in it because they have a video of him with a person, and in that situation. I think this week, it's a judge down in a magistrate's judge or regular judge. I don't know what it is in Charleston. That I guess he's locked up and stuff like that. It's everywhere, and it's about back to the money, and we can't sit there and just say, oh, I don't know anything about it, so I don't want to even discuss it. It's untasteful to discuss it. People are suffering, and we need to talk about it. And I want the discussion of whether we should be going into things and doing things. And, I want the discussion about whether our rules are good enough to make sure a future chair is not going to use them against. That's why we're doing the changes to the freaking rules, for God's sake. And then they're complaining about it. I'm like, oh, and how about you, Jeff? Or is it about me? I don't know if it's about me or not about me. I don't even really know. But I'm like, it's.
Talk to anybody on the rules committee.
Yeah.
Join the rules committee.
Join the rules committee. It was funny back in the old days. We had some of the old day splinters were sitting there saying that we were making all these plans in our executive board meeting, and nobody knew what we were doing behind the curtain. So I'm like, come to the meetings. We made them open. The person who complained never came to one meeting. That's just typical what goes on. Yeah.
Events.
The meeting on Monday, the Rom Ready thing has been canceled. With that was going to have Pasco and down at Hartnett Hotel or whatever. That's been postponed for 2 extra weeks.
And I just got a text.
2 weeks to the 23rd.
If you already bought a ticket or did a link and got a ticket, they're going to send out a new link shortly.
They can't just change the date on
Eventbrite.
I'm pretty sure you can, but that's okay.
I asked Justin that.
I advised them to change the date, so it will send email updates to everybody, but that's okay. So nothing on Monday, so don't come to that. We've taken it off the thing, but go ahead. Yes.
Holger made a comment that at the new meeting on the 23rd, 2 of the speakers won't be there. I got that verified by Justin that it's some conflicts there. They're working on it, and there's a lot of confusion as to what actually is going to happen. So stand by, he's putting out more news.
The only confirmed speaker right now for the 23rd is Rom Reddy himself. So this was about Pasco and those guys, Burkhold, and now it's only Rom Reddy. But that's but tomorrow, it's the most exciting thing. We're all about growing the party. We're all about getting more involvement. It starts at your neighbor's door. It starts in your own precinct. We're all about precinct. Just so you know, the state, where you go and vote is your precinct. The people that come and vote at your voting location is your precinct. There's 151 precincts in Greenville County. There's 3,000 plus or minus in the whole entire state of South Carolina. So that's how, from a political perspective, they break down the party, and the representation is representation by your precinct, which rolls up to your county, which rolls up to your state, which rolls up to the RNC, the national side of it. But the real crux of it is, and it's supposed to be bottoms up. So the real crux of it is in your precinct. And so what we're going to talk about tomorrow at 10 here is about building your precinct. How we're going to grow it, how giving you the tools to go out there. We've got to get, and we're going to put some bogeys and some ideas of, how many more people do you need to get out there? I think you guys have been pushing something really just to get your neighbors. Oh, good, if you'd like to talk about it, but get your neighbors just a pledge to come vote. Will you pledge to come vote in the June primary? What can we do to encourage you to come vote? I have more people tell me after the June primary or some, primary that, oh, I didn't even know there was an election. I've had people tell me that actually got text from the party. That's mass text, and they just kind of overlook it. But if you call your neighbors, and if you've got, these are the 300 people, if my precinct's 2,500 people, I've got 15% turnout, that would be 375 people. I want to get it to 475. Pick a number, whatever it might be. If I know the people that normally vote, I'm going to remind the ones that I know are Republicans that normally vote, and I'm going to try to get good Republicans, conservatives, and I'm going to try to find an extra 100 people in my precinct that are good conservative Republicans that will come out and vote. I'm going to try to encourage those people to come out and vote, and let's see if we can increase our voter turnout. And back to what I said in the beginning, we want people to be a patriot. 3 things: come out precinct reorg every other year, come out and vote in the primaries, come out and vote in November. And if we can get those people, and I say vote, obviously vote for the most conservative person in the primary and vote for the Republican in the general election. But if we can find some tools to be able to do that and get out and do, that's what we got to, if you don't monitor and look at, and benchmark what we're doing, everybody can feel good about it. But if I'm feeling good about what I'm doing in my precinct, but voter turnout doesn't increase, guess what? I failed. And that's the way it is. I mean, we're about accomplishing things. We focus on reorg and getting the party back from the rhinos. Why don't we focus on getting our elected officials back from the rhinos? And that's going to take turnout. And it's going to take. So, we've got door hangers and packages and things like that, and data, and hopefully we've got to get the newspaper cranked up. What do we do to get a pledge like this? Patriots Promise, I guess y'all are titling it. This is fantastic. Do they fill out the whole thing or just part of it? Deadline to cap. But we'll look at but this is how do we get people, to number one, inform them. Some people don't like to knock on doors. Maybe if you just do a lit drop and come back later and they see you a ring cam.
The postcards. So
The
you can,
postcards.
we'll give people options. Some people don't like to do a note, but they don't mind investing in stamps. So we'll have postcards that you'll be able to mail. We have them designed and ready. If you prefer a door knock, you can take the same postcard and in the space for the mailing address, you stick your business card and write a personal note, and you knock at people's door. So it's like,
Or just drop it on their door. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it, and we need to kind of come up with a plan, come up with a unified kind of approach from a marketing perspective of, we want you to come out and vote, and then we need to just drop stuff. I mean, if you go on your afternoon walk, just drop stuff at some neighbors. When we did our precinct reorg in 21, we brought out 50 some odd people to the thing, which was unheard of. It's normally like 5 people or 2 people or 1 person shows up. It was kind of, there was a guy last year down in Mike Tunner down in Beaufort. He brought out 100 people. I'm talking to Mike, and Mike tells me, he beat our record. So I'm like, I don't figure out what that guy's doing, but I'm like, he tells me, he's like, I know everybody in my neighborhood. I can tell you which Republicans voted for Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, or Trump. He's gotten down to that kind of detail. And it does, you got to get down to saying, what we really want is we want the Trump people coming out, right? We want the Trump people coming out for reorg in the June primaries, and then we want everybody coming out in November, right? But that's who we need to start finding and getting them out to vote. And it's going to take that kind of work, but you need to have a map of your precinct. You need to have the data for it. You need to work the phone numbers and clean that up and help clean up our data. I'm like, because who else has this? The establishment has it, and they have it because they got a ton of money, and they can just buy their way through it. They don't want a lot of turnout because I will tell you, political consultants on that side, they don't want a lot of turnout because they can manage it better. They can send more mailers to the people that do vote. Why did I get 17 mailers from one candidate as opposed to them even spreading it out to more people? I don't need 17 letters or postcards from one candidate. But they didn't want more voter turnout. They were just trying to influence me. And I guess they didn't match up and say, there's a waste of money. But imagine you go out and find that extra, 5 out of 100 people in your precinct and get them to come out. This is how we save America and not be beholden to the money special interest. But we can outwork them. Literally they're talking, I was watching something on Bannon. He was interviewing the people in Texas about what they're doing, because they got their primary on March 3rd, next Tuesday. And they were saying, you can, Texas has a lot of money, right? So, those types of oil people, they donate a lot to the party, and I'm talking big dollars. And they're like, well, we could hire, door knockers and kids and all that kind of stuff to do, but nothing's better than a volunteer that's going to do it. We need the volunteers to do it. We need to take care of our volunteers. We need to equip our volunteers. We need to pay for their pizza and maybe some gas money or something like that, or if you're just working in your own precinct, maybe you don't need the gas money. We need to buy you a new set of tennis shoes. But that's the type of stuff that we want to encourage active civic engagement. I don't have, $100 million to fund everything, and you don't want, we got to do it on a volunteer basis, but it's your precinct. You've got to focus on your precinct. So we're going to equip people in Greenville, 151 precincts with the tools and the understanding of it. We'll have some needs of the party and, and we maybe get some people to fund it, some of that type of stuff, that are out there. But we need folks, shoe leather. That's what we need. But it's our responsibility to provide you the direction. Yes, sir.
Just quick, being involved in the legislative committee, that was happening when we were down in the meeting last week, and we talked about it here. Judicial reform. It's Bill 4755. It's passed the House and it's in the Senate. We were told that Massey will bring it to the floor if he gets enough senators to vote for it. This is what we were told.
This is judicial reform.
Judicial reform. They're going to reform the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. And so they actually gave us names of 4 senators that they say should be able to switch. I find it's kind of hard to believe. Thomas Alexander of Oconee, if you know anybody in Oconee, have them call and say you want Bill 4755 move forward. They should support that. This is a surprise. Shane Martin, a local guy here. So that some of us probably have him as their senator. Greenville Smartford, Thomas Corbett, also in Greenville, sent a message that it needs to move that forward and have Massey bring it to vote. And Tom Young of Aikens.
So they need, other people have committed, they need maybe some of those names, or just
names they identify that these are 4. They need 4 more. These are 4 more that we can.
yes.
This is it's all in the Senate.
And it's H4755. And now 2 of those people have, for either full Greenville or partial Greenville. We always say, well, why would a senator from Greenville not be supporting this? We're like, the buckle of the Bible Belt. You remember when they killed the boys and girls sports thing the first time? Second time it ended up passing, but they killed it the first time in a House committee because 6 Republicans voted the other way. 3 of them were out of the 3 of them that voted against it were out of the Greenville legislative delegation. I mean, we got our own problems here.
Right.
So, I mean, that's, why Tom Corbin has not stood up for that. I don't know. Maybe nobody's asked him to, I mean, give him the benefit of the doubt. I like Shane Martin, give him the benefit of the doubt. But the other comment that was made when we were given these 4 names was, because it passed, it's gone, and it's passed out of the House pretty quickly and moved on. And people, the comment was made, why do you think it moved through the House so quickly? Because the Senate's already agreed to kill it. That's what goes on in a lot of stuff.
So a lot of the reps,
think about it.
They said we can get this, and it looks like we're doing our job for our people, but we know the Senate's not going to go anywhere.
Because why? House is up for re-election this year. Senate is not up for 2 years. We have a long memory. We are not going to forget.
That's what
I can assure you.
We have a quote when it's going to vote. That's the point. They're not going to vote on it unless we get them to bring it to the floor.
Right.
We talk to these people to tell their boss Massey to bring it to the floor for a vote.
H4755 passed the House. It's now in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Who's the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee? Lawyer legislator, Senator Luke Rankin out of Horry County.
Who is it?
Luke Rankin out of Horry County.
Luke Rankin.
Yeah, former Democrat, switched to the Republican Party in like 2000 or something like that. So.
Did he vote 2 primaries out of 3?
I don't know, but I will reflect on. I mean, Luke Rankin 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah. I guess when he had a very challenging primary. One of them was a guy in Horry County that was a huge pro-lifer. Actually, I think worked at one of the clinics down there, on the our side of the type of clinic, not the other kind of clinic. He was one of the challengers. The other was what's his name? Ended up there was a runoff. Another guy was just usually pro-life, but he was fighting it because he lost his kids, or some issues with kids in the judicial system. Family court, you think our regular state courts are bad? Wait till you start getting into family court, trafficking kids, selling off kids, and everybody's lining their pocket. All I don't say trafficking, but there's all kinds of problems in there, and it's really a big deal. Well, it gets to a runoff, and you got Luke Rankin, lawyer legislator, opposing, pushing back or slowing down all the pro-life stuff, and a gentleman is who's the guy in Ori? Blank. But listen, after this chemo, I can't remember names real well, but he's fantastic, and none of the pro-life people. No. None of the in Ori County. None of the people on the pro-life establishment, pro-life groups would come out and support him. So they would rather not offend Luke Rankin than get this other guy in office who was a huge pro-lifer out there fighting for all this stuff all the time. I mean, this is what we battle. I mean, Olga and our cause is while we're in this, is for school choice for K through 12 kids with special needs and the corruption that we've seen. And who is our biggest fight? Our biggest fight is Republicans, school choice establishment stuff. All right, you guys got to run. How we do? Anybody got anything else? Do you want to talk about anything that you do, or come back another time, or y'all can think about it?
I think this is something I've not. I knew she went to GOP, but I had no clue this. This is a real eye opener.
Okay.
This needs to happen.
Well, and that's why we broadcast this, because
I don't listen to radio, but
yeah.
I mean, if she does it, it's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that highly of this lady. First of all, her, what she believes in.
Yeah.
And if she is willing to bring me here and expose this to me, I will get you the name. I need more cards. I'm pretty social.
Okay.
I need more cards.
Okay.
And I'll get you the name of that movie.
Okay.
And you dig as deep as you want with me, because I'll get answers for you.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of influence, but I do know folks that do have influence. So
you're soft, Molly. Under promise, over deliver. I know what you're doing. I think you got more influence.
This guy up here, we got to support this.
Yes, we did. We really did.
A hell of a hole to dig out of.
Yes, we have been misled in the GOP, Republicans, conservatives for a long time. There's a unit party. It's Trump is about the people. Yeah, really did.
He's our number one patriot.
He really is. He truly is. And I don't know where we would be if he hadn't come around in 2016. Tell him. Like he gives it all away. I think he donates his salary to,
Yes, for overtime.
And it was funny. He's actually, and then we'll go ahead and see if we get a motion to adjourn. But he actually, I think he has a lawsuit about he's suing maybe the IRS about exposing his tax returns or something. And they were asking, "Well, you're suing the government. That's really suing the taxpayers." And he's like, "I'm going to donate it all to charity anyhow." And he's like, "You know how much money the government gets to charity all the time? I mean, who's complaining about that? But you're complaining about me." He's wanting to make a point. Principles. Yes, we have to make the point. Sue them out the wazoo. Go after them. Yes. So, all right.
Motion adjourned.
Is it debate? Do we need a second? No. Do we need a second to adjourn?
Trying
it. Oh, he doesn't know. He's got the brain too. All right. Non-debatable. We're out. See y'all next week. Yes, ma'am.